Hi, I'm Ravi,
And I'm Shell,
and you're listening to Two Lost Souls.
the podcast that guides you through the journey to becoming a CBT therapist.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are listening. This is the Two Lost Souls podcast, and the title of today's episode is Who Are You? And to begin answering that question, my name is Ravi Amrith, and I am joined, as ever, by Michelle Sudbury. Hello, Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How's your week been?
Really busy. Yeah, very, very busy week this week. But yeah, not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, it's been good. Also very busy, though I hear you've managed to get up to some really interesting things outside of work.
Yeah, went to see Morrissey, which was absolutely amazing. But I can't talk about it because he's got some allegedly controversial views.
It sounded like the gig was a good time, though.
It was amazing. He's got the voice of an angel. So I think I've redeemed myself slightly. He sings beautifully.
Okay,
So you got to give him that.
right. How was it? What was the atmosphere like?
Oh, really good. Hot. And yeah, too old for standing at gigs now. So I'm not going to do that anymore. But it was brilliant.
Yeah, I learned myself that standing at a gig is almost like an endurance sport in its own right.
Yeah,
When you reach a
torturous.
certain age. Yeah.
You can do it if you're 19, I think. And
Yeah.
you don't need to pee every 25 minutes because getting through that crowd is just nigh on impossible. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a challenge, but it's good that you had a good time, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's begin by saying that this is the podcast to guide you through the process of becoming a high-intensity CBT therapist, but we are guided by you. So if you have any particular questions or topics that you'd like to see covered, reach out to us on Twitter at TLS_pod or by email at twolostsoulspodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, if you want to celebrate something that's going well for you in your practice or your training, use our self-celebration box to give yourself a little shout out. The link to that is in the show notes and in our Twitter bio. And without further ado, let's move on to the main topic on the agenda today. So, this first episode isn't really about sort of anything too heavy or anything overly CBT focused, but we are just going to give a little bit of an intro into who we are and why we do what we do. And maybe we'll just ramble on a bit so you can get familiar with our voices and understand what we sound like. And I suppose to begin with, Shell, what is it that you do at the moment? What's your current role?
So my job title is high intensity cognitive behavioural therapist, but I'm also the team lead for the IAP service that I work for.
Okay.
So kind of a dual role, little bit clinical, little bit managerial, which is nice. It breaks it up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. How long have you been practicing for?
I have been working in mental health for around about 7 years, but I've only been a CBT therapist for 5.
Right. What were you doing before
yeah.
that? I'm intrigued as to what sort of led up to you becoming a therapist.
Yeah, I was really late to the game, so I was quite old when I, well, not old, but older when I started my career in mental health. And I was originally a humanistic counsellor, so I worked in a person-centred counselling way. That was my modality. And then I got a job in the NHS as a counsellor, which is quite rare, actually. It's really hard to get a job in counselling in the NHS because it's not an evidence-based practice. practice, unfortunately. So, but I was really lucky, fortunate to get that job. And then after only being in that post for a year, I was offered the opportunity to go and do my high intensity training. And yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Absolutely amazing. What is it about CBT that sort of resonated with you?
I think it was the fact that there was a really strong foundation and the evidence behind it, which was something that I hadn't realised was so lacking in counselling. You know, what you want to do is the best for people when you're working with them. And I think if you can see on paper through kind of studies and research that what you're doing is likely to be successful and it's been invested in, then I don't know, it just makes it a kind of better experience for you as the therapist and for the client, I think.
Okay, got you. Knowing that you've been practicing for a few years now and you've obviously kind of started to rise up the ranks and things like that, what are your reflections on the training process that you had?
So I work as a supervisor as well, and I've supervised a few new trainees as they've come through. And one of the things I kind of try and say at the very beginning of that journey is that the year is likely to be pretty horrible and horrendous because it's incredibly intense. I don't think you can appreciate the commitment that it takes before you start the training. I know that the universities really strive to make sure that people understand that there's a lot of your personal time that you have to devote to study. But it's not until you're in it that you realise just how much of a commitment it is.
Right, got you. If you had one platinum piece of advice to give to someone starting their trainee journey now, what would that be?
It would probably be make sure your KSA is ready before the course starts. That would be my best bit of advice.
No pressure, anyway.
I didn't do that, and it made my training year really difficult. I was in a very fortunate position that it wasn't there wasn't the pressure to kind of have it handed in within the first couple of weeks of uni starting, which I appreciate most courses will require now. And I actually didn't have mine in until maybe a month before the year finished. So I'd been working on it at the same time as all of my clinical practice, all of my academic stuff and the portfolio. And it killed me, to be honest. It was really difficult.
Wow, how did you manage that?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think I definitely neglected the kids. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe wine, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is a favoured coping mechanism amongst many high intensity students and therapists. Yeah. That's true. Okay, cool. Are there any other kind of piece of advice that you'd wish to share? Anything else that you want to mention about yourself?
Mention about myself. Just that, yeah. So don't let that put you off. It is a horrible year at times, but it's also a brilliant year. Because it's so interesting. It's amazing to kind of have the experience from the tutors, from the service users, if you're lucky enough to have them come into the university and share their stuff with you. And it's worth it.
Amazing. I completely agree with that. Let's take a short break and we'll be back in a couple of moments.
Okay, welcome back. So you've heard my stuff. Ravi, tell me about your journey into IAPT.
So, yeah, it's quite probably a long and boring story, but I did my undergraduate degree in psychology about 10 years ago now, almost. And it's always been my dream or my passion to go into work into mental health. After my undergraduate degree, I did spend some time doing stuff that definitely wasn't mental health related. Like I worked in marketing for a while and in recruitment. recruitment, I found especially, was a bit of a soul destroying job. So definitely glad I'm not doing that anymore. But after that, ended up working in some mental health hostels down in London, with individuals with symptoms of psychosis,
goodness,
etc.
Straight in at the deep end.
Yeah, but an incredibly rewarding role.
Yeah.
Then after that, went off to work as an assistant psychologist at an international school abroad. Then worked in drug and alcohol for a little bit as an assistant psychologist. Then sort of began to rise up the ranks a little bit in health and social care. Ended up doing some managerial stuff, which is both a blessing and a curse. And then randomly saw an advert one day for trainee CBT therapists and haven't looked back since, really. So I'm technically not qualified yet, but I'm on the verge of it. I've passed my course, but I'm just waiting for final clearance from the BABCP to say that I'm ready for takeoff.
Excellent. And how would you kind of describe the year that you've just gone through as a trainee?
Oh, there are so many words I could use. Grueling is one of them. Rewarding is another. It's one of those journeys when you're in it, it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
I don't think I understood how much of a challenge it would be until it was sort of happening.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think I'll fondly regard it as one of the best years of my life, in a way.
Wow.
In terms of just being able to have a really nice shared experience with other people and go on a bit of a journey with sort of 27 other people and learn so many brilliant things. It's been really enjoyable, actually.
Oh, that's nice. That's really good. And did you went the KSA route, yeah?
I did go the KSA route. So, and I was definitely very panicky about it. So, full disclosure, Michelle is actually my supervisor, and
I am.
And you don't know this.
Oh.
But I was so worried about my KSA and the potential of not passing it.
Right.
Early on, I was actually applying for other jobs just in case.
Oh my goodness.
I know, but luckily, it got through. There were many sort of sleepless nights worrying about it. Many evenings that I definitely cut off my entire social circle.
Wow.
Just to work on it, and it is an immense piece of work, particularly so early on as well.
Yeah.
But it also, I found it quite validating in a way as well, kind of that you go through your years and your career doing all this sort of CPD stuff and all this, lots of e-learning stuff, working for different providers and organisations, thinking that it's all a bit soulless and it will never be used for anything. And this is the time where you are allowed to use it and it will shine, which is really nice.
That's a nice way to look back on it. And I think when you've got that completed folder, oh my God, how proud are you?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
100%. And top tip for anyone out there, we will do an entire episode on KSAs.
Yeah.
But my top tip for anyone doing KSA is at the start of the year, Ryman's do some great offers on ring binders, and generally they'll do like 2-for-1 offers, so make sure you get your KSA portfolio and your practice portfolio folders at the same time, just to save a bit of cash. Not sponsored, by the way. We aren't sponsored by Ryman or any stationery company yet.
Wilko's, I mean, you can't beat Wilko's
or
for
Wilko,
cheap stationery. It's amazing.
And
I used to work for Wilko's, so
okay.
Yeah.
So it's slightly biased.
Slightly
biased. if Wilko or Ryman does want to get in touch and drop us a few discount codes to pass on to our listeners,
that would be great
for the purchases of their portfolios, which are obviously they're doing a good deed, given that these are people that are going to go on to work for the NHS and provide a very worthwhile
key
service.
Workers.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to get in touch and give us some discount codes to pass on, we definitely wouldn't say no. So, we have covered a little bit about ourselves so far in this episode, and I'm sure there will be more snippets of our own personality to come through in the forthcoming episodes. But, Shell, what else are we aiming to cover in this podcast?
So, this podcast is really designed to help you understand a little bit about what your year is going to look like, because it's pretty eclectic. You will be doing things you've never done before, and it's really daunting at times. We're not perfect, so you're going to get a different experience by listening to this, I think, than you are going to get from your service managers and things like that, because hopefully we're going to share the reality of the situation with you and let you know that it's not always easy.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really important to know that it's not always going to be smooth sailing. Also, I mean, just reflecting on when I started out on this process, I was looking for resources everywhere to kind of help me guide through the process. And I really couldn't find a podcast. I just thought it's a nice way of kind of absorbing some information, particularly if you're on your commute to work or on your commute to university and you want something to sort of pep you up for the day and also maybe give you a bit of a wider context of what you might be facing on that particular day or particular week.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is something that will be useful for you. Just in terms of content as well, what are the sort of things that we might aim to cover?
So, like you mentioned earlier, we're definitely going to do a whole section on the KSA because it is such a big anxiety for so many people. I think you summed that up beautifully earlier. So, yeah, definitely cover that. Looking at what your first couple of weeks are going to look like as well, particularly at university, which is usually quite hardcore. You really are thrust in the deep end straight away, and your client work starts very early on as a high intensity trainee, so we'll definitely cover that, and then really looking about kind of onboarding into IAPT, learning all about the way that IAPT works, what's expected of you, but we also want to know kind of what do you want.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned in the sort of intro to the show, although we are guiding you on this journey, we are guided by you. So as usual, just get in touch with us on Twitter or via the email. So our Twitter is TLS_pod, or our email address is twolostsoulspodcast@gmail.com. Just drop us a line. What are your questions that you would like to know, either about us, about CBT, or about the process that you are embarking on over the course of next year? We are really keen to help you while you're on this journey, and we just need to know what you would like to hear.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's important to know as well, so the views expressed in this show aren't affiliated with any particular organisation, and they are our own personal views, just to make that clear. And also, I think as well, just in terms of appreciating that, I think sometimes it can feel as though the CBT program is a bit sort of tunnel vision in terms of you going through and definitely working in IAPT afterwards.
Yeah.
I think we're hopefully going to be able to expand that view somewhat as well, and maybe pay attention to maybe other avenues that might be open to you after qualifying as well, and take a look at the different pathways that you'll be able to embark down following what is a challenging but rewarding year.
Definitely. I mean, IAPT isn't the only kind of platform for delivering high intensity CBT. So yeah, talking about your future career options is definitely something we should cover. And I think I really liked what you said then, but yeah, our views are going to be our own, and hopefully they'll be respectful to the process. But I am really keen that we make it very honest.
Of course.
So that's what I'm going to strive to do, but with a lot of respect.
100% honesty is definitely our policy here.
Yeah.
As it is throughout CBT as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Naming stuff and putting stuff out into the open.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely embody that ethos as we go through. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think we've kind of covered what we're hoping to get from this.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely need some input as to what people really want to to hear about.
100%. And so in that case then, just to round off today's episode, if you have enjoyed or learned anything from this show so far, or would like to enjoy or learn anything more as we go along, please give us a follow and let us know on Twitter at TLS_pod, or by email at twolostsoulspodcast@gmail.com, or if you would like to, please consider donating to our Ko-fi at kofi.com/TLS_pod. Links to all of those places are in the show notes as well. And if there is someone you know who would benefit from hearing Two Lost Souls, please share this show with them. It really does help us a huge amount. And all that's left to say, first of all, is a huge thank you to Michelle.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you very much. And just to round off, some new service information. A new 24-hour CBT hotline has opened, specialising in delivering only second wave CBT change methods. They say that no matter what time, day or night, they will be at your beck and call.
Oh my God.
Thank you very much, and hope to speak to you all soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Two Lost Souls was presented by Ravi Amrath and Michelle Sudbury. To get in touch, contact TLS_pod on Twitter or email twolostsoulspodcast@gmail.com.